Sign up with MyBookie and use our promo code Gators to get your first ever deposit match dollar for dollar. Bet anything, anywhere, anytime with MyBookie.
Want more Gators Breakdown? Join Gators Breakdown Plus. Starting at $3 a month, get access to unique episodes, plus a blog, chat room, giveaways, shout-outs, and more. Gators Breakdown Plus is furthering the interaction with fans and listeners like you. Head to gatorsbreakdown.supportingcast.fm to join Gators Breakdown Plus today. Gators Breakdown, because there's never a dull moment in Gator Nation.
The Gators Breakdown podcast is ready to go. I'm your host, David Waters, and you can find me on Twitter at GatorDave_SEC. You can probably hear it, my voice a little bit, little hoarse after that one. Florida, Georgia. Not the result, of course, we wanted there. 34-7, Georgia beats Florida. Not even close. Not even close there. We'll break down the game a little bit here. Not a lot to break down. We won't go play-by-play or anything like that. But, the story of the game. And, hey, look, we know the story of the game. Georgia, a lot of talent, elite defense. Puts it on Florida 34-7. And the end of the first half. Biggest difference of the game right now. But bummed after this one. Of course, the losses are piling up, expected or not. No matter what outcome you expected. I didn't pick Florida to win this game, but that doesn't mean you can't still be bummed a bit. And it's a lot about big picture. The losses are piling up. So expected or not to beat Georgia, just don't like seeing the Gators lose and all the questions that come along with the losses piling up. The more those losses pile up, the bigger the questions get, and the more questions get thrown out there about the direction of this program. And now a lot of them not new questions. A lot of these are the questions we've had the last couple of weeks about this program. We didn't really get many answers for questions. A win would have went a long way, of course, but looking at it, there's still – now the questions are just growing, and they're getting louder. It's the same questions, but getting louder week by week, loss by loss right now. So, we'll see where Florida goes after this. The schedule eases up. 4 games they should win, but we'll see the mindset of this team moving forward after, 4-4 now. That is the record of the Gators. Pretty much what your record says you are right now, and they keep piling up. 4-4, that's what Florida is right now. Inconsistent, just average at best team. 4-4 overall means average. In the SEC, Florida's not average right now. Overall, yes. In the SEC, we'll see as these weeks coming up. Florida can get a little bit of momentum, but what does it all mean coming up? But that's kind of an introduction here. But we got plenty of time to get into all those. So we'll take a look back at the tough loss versus Georgia, what played out in the game, and then, of course, some big picture look from myself after this one as Georgia beats Florida. Once again, beats Dan Mullen again. Got the win last year, not able to he had the streak of 3 wins here, 3 wins there, 3 wins here from the other team. That streak is over. Florida did beat Georgia last year, but now Georgia back in the win column in this rivalry. The number 1 team in the country. Look like the number 1 team, especially on defense. And they'll continue there. And look, they won the SEC East already. We wanted this game to mean the SEC East, and they did for Georgia already. With Kentucky's loss, we'll get into that later on too. Kentucky's loss, Georgia, if you missed it, Georgia wrapped up the SEC East by beating Florida, and Kentucky going down to Mississippi State. So, all right, here we go. Let's get into the game. Just a bit. Overall stats, they didn't really even matter. But we'll take a look at them right here. Anyway, total yards, Florida 355, Georgia 354. Florida outgained Georgia by 1 yard. Florida has outgained every opponent this season, and somehow finds a record of 4-4. Make sense of it. We can. We know. We can make some sense of it. Looking at turnovers, looking at penalties, game management, clock management, all this stuff that keeps just adding up week by week. You see it. And you see it on display here. Passing yards, Gators 194, 161 for Georgia. Gators with 161 rushing yards, Georgia 193. And there you go, penalties. Florida 8 for 50. Turnovers, penalties, a story for Florida this year. Shows up in a big game. Once again, 8 penalties for 50 yards on Florida, 6 for 38 on Georgia. 4 of 13. 4 of 13 on third down for the Gators. 4 of 9 for Georgia. Gators ran 74 plays, but not much coming from those plays. As you see, 4.8 yards a play. Georgia, a little more explosion on their side, 6.8 yards a play, 16.1 yards per completion for this Georgia offense. Passing attack there, mostly until, of course, that big Zamir White run late. Florida looked much better versus the run, but Georgia with 5.8 yards a rush. Florida 4.1. Red zone, big difference there. Now, Georgia was able to take advantage of some turnovers, but them in the red zone go 3 for 4. Florida 1 of 3 on the day. Turnovers. Both teams with 3, but it was the points off of those turnovers where they got them on the field. Played a huge part in this. 3 turnovers for both teams. Georgia taking advantage of theirs with scoring off those turnovers. But there we go. Sacks, tackles for loss. Georgia with 5 there in their defense. But turnovers, penalties, of course, the great equalizer for what was a close game, heading in late into the first half. Didn't matter. Didn't matter at all, as Florida found themselves trying to create something. We'll get into that in the late in the first half, but ultimately that aggressiveness didn't play off. We wanted the aggressiveness, but we'll get into that. The big plays, the explosives for Georgia, the lack of explosives for Florida, the turnovers, the penalties, that was the difference in this game, and making the difference for Georgia and pulling out another victory for Kirby Smart over Dan Mullen. So, okay, of course, the big storyline in the game, quarterback position. Wondered all week what Florida would do. Reports all week that they're splitting reps. Reports most of the week that Emory Jones would be getting the start. And then late Friday starts coming out that Anthony Richardson would get the start. All that momentum picks up into Saturday. We pretty much knew going into the stadium Anthony Richardson would be making his first start of his career. Glad he got the start. I'm not going to sit here and change my mind in hindsight. I think it was the right move. That was the move, of course, I wanted going into the game. Look, I never thought he was going to be a difference for Florida to win, of course. And if you listened to the preview episode last week, I picked Georgia to win, even with the move I thought Dan Mullen was going to make. And no surprise that Richardson was not ready for the Georgia defense in his first start. I thought his style of play still lends itself to more of a shot overall, but it really didn't matter if Richardson or Jones was starting. I think the end result would have been the same. Jones probably plays it a little bit safer, but this offense isn't driving on Georgia drive after drive. I think we know that. Now I know a lot of people will point to the drive that Florida ended up scoring on, but come on. I mean, Georgia's playing time more than they are points at that time. And sure, they wanted the shutout versus Florida, but a different approach from that defense at that time. Credit to the offense for fighting their way down the field. But in my opinion, that was not going to happen in the meat of the football game. So right now, we can say after the game, we're doing the game, Florida doesn't have a quarterback ready for games like this. The bigger games of the season, just the inconsistency there. Florida just doesn't have a quarterback ready for the totality of this season, and that's what we're seeing right now. That much we know now. heading into the final month of the season where quarterback should, and we'll see the approach from here on out of where it goes. But heading into the final month of the season, Florida's quarterback play is good enough to win all 4 games, but also we have seen bad enough to lose one. Hopefully no more. Hopefully no more losses from here on out. But we've seen enough of the quarterback play to know it's not a complete write-off that Florida's going to go 4-0 the next month. We know they can, and the quarterbacks play the good part of what we have seen so far. Florida will go 4-0. So Florida goes with Anthony Richardson, and all that comes with playing a young quarterback, making his first start versus that Georgia defense. And I know, look, the prevailing thought here is perhaps more reps earlier in the season translates to a better performance, but not enough to do much more versus this Georgia defense. I'm not so sure. I think many of us knew that AR starting he wasn't going to be inserted, and then all of a sudden that meant Florida was going to go beat Georgia. Most people, we picked that. That's what we know. We just wanted to see it, needed to see it, and I think that's where some misguided thoughts come from in much of the fan base that trying to prove that AR isn't the guy as well. We kind of knew this may be some of the performance we could get from here. It was never going to be about AR going out there and meaning the upset of Georgia. Most of us just felt that was the best chance, and I still think it was the best chance. But it was more about handing the offense to him, letting it be his, learning more about him, letting him grow. Now, there's going to be a lot of growing up, a lot of growing pains versus this Georgia defense, and it showed. Richardson, 12 of 20. Only 82 yards passing, 2 interceptions, 12 rush attempts for 26 yards. Georgia able to pressure Richardson. And that was always my worry. If you guys listened to it last week, it was always my worry here. I said it plenty last week on Gators Breakdown Plus, radio shows, all that stuff. It was the explosiveness that we wanted to see from this offense with Anthony Richardson. It could be held in check. And mostly if there wasn't time for those plays to develop. Yes, he presses the ball more down the field. That's what we wanted to see. But of course, as I said last week, the time has to be there for those explosive plays to open up, and they weren't. So a lot of what we saw is what we got when my worry is what showed up. So Richardson either this kind of overall blanket here, either has to take a sack, either can't handle a pass rush up front in the offensive line. So either has to take a sack or, forced to make some bad reads, forces some throws. And, the Georgia defense had exactly where they wanted a young quarterback to be. Interceptions follow for a complete collapse at the end of the first half. We saw it. So credit Georgia's defense for, basically showing what we knew they could bring to the table. And that was always my worry with starting the young quarterback, starting Anthony Richardson. I still think it was the right move. I'm not going to change my mind on that. We'll get into it more as well through the end of that first half. But it was a move that needed to be made. We now have more of an answer of where Richardson is at. But, I do caution, using this game as an ultimate determination for the type of player Anthony Richardson's going to be. I didn't want to fall, and I said that somewhere last week too. I kind of forget. Just don't want to fall down that hole. And, he couldn't get it done versus Georgia, so he's not who we thought he was. What quarterback was going to? None on Florida's roster, and we'll see if there's anybody in the country that will do anything versus this Georgia defense. But did I expect a closer game? Yeah. Did I expect Richardson to play better? Yeah. I'm not going to shy away from that. But also, I did say if the help wasn't going to be there from up front, and don't get me wrong, it's not all on the offensive line and the decisions, but Florida needed to play a perfect game up front for any chance. And then my biggest worry up front, if it wasn't going to be there, then we'd see the best attribute that Richardson brought to the table was the explosiveness. It wasn't going to be there if there was no time to throw it, if there was no time for the explosive plays to open up. That's exactly what we got. All right, we'll get into more of that. Defense, I won't overlook their performance. Much better. and we'll get into some of the storylines of the game as well. But before we do, at MyBookie, they are still doubling your first deposit. So you can start with a leg up. Use my promo code Gators, sign up now, claim your first deposit bonus with MyBookie, and use the extra funds to kickstart your winning season. Looking forward to next week, lay the points with Arizona as they continue streaking in the NFL world against San Francisco with top two, and then two top 10 offenses in the Titans and Rams going toe-to-toe next Sunday night. You want to take the over? Bet at MyBookie. Don't just take my word for it. Head to MyBookie and sign up now using promo code Gators to get your money doubled and start winning today. Remember, friends, good friends don't let friends win alone. So have your buddies use your referral link that MyBookie will send you, so you're eligible to receive an additional 250% bonus on their first deposit. Plus, it's unlimited to redeem, so all your friends can enjoy the party at MyBookie. Bet anything, anywhere, anytime with MyBookie. All right, let's get into it. Man, you can hear it, my voice all cracking. I got to be a fan yesterday, not in the press box, so of course, hollering when that defense is on the field. And we'll give them some credit here. As much as we throw them under the bus, we can give praise for that heck of a start of the game. Something I thought you guys know, I beat it down. Florida needed to have a good start on defense. For a change versus Georgia, it needed a better performance from Todd Grantham and his defense early on, and we got it. Something I thought was imperative for Florida to even have a chance in this game actually happened on that side of the ball. Georgia moved the ball on the first drive. Defense held strong. Georgia drives 8 plays, 63 yards, misses a field goal. Defense was getting some pressure early, goes on to give up only 25 yards, forces 2 punts on the next 2 drives for Georgia. But Florida can't do anything on offense to take advantage and finally put some pressure on Georgia for a change in this series at the beginning of games. It was something that I wanted to see if it would have any effect versus Georgia. Florida had their chances early, did not take advantage on offense. Defense gave him every chance in the world for that to happen. Didn't take advantage. Finally put some pressure on Georgia, could not happen. Florida goes punt, miss field goal. Before Georgia finally takes a 3-0 lead on their fourth drive of the game, Florida had every chance to take the lead, just could not get it done. And game was really even after the first quarter, as in the first quarter. In looking at it, both offenses getting some yards, but not much overall. Missing field goals. Florida was 0 of 3 on third down in the first quarter, and had 3rd and 3 on the first 2 drives of the game. Couldn't get anything out of either one of them. 2 passes were called. Rather had some straight power runs called with Richardson or the backs in those situations. I wasn't a fan of the calls in the stands, sitting there watching. Of course, I wanted to be aggressive. But my approach to aggressiveness was to set up 4th and short, not necessarily passing on 3rd and 3. You can say it's hindsight a bit too, but I wish I could prove sitting there in the stands. Right there, I didn't like the calls. And we saw some power run from Florida that did work, especially with Dameon Pierce. So if we could have somehow just shifted that earlier in the game, those first couple of drives, maybe those drives keep going. Georgia had the first one covered. The first 3rd and 3 had the first one covered. Richardson ended up running for no gain. So called pass, 1 read, it was covered. Richardson tries to make something out of his legs, no gain for Gators. Have to punt there on the first drive of the game. Then the second one, very next drive, another pass. Georgia pressures with the blitz. Richardson doesn't throw to the vacated area, instead moves left, throws incomplete out of bounds. Richardson started 3 or 3 of the game and had a big tight end wheel route gain. Better throw would have given Gamble even more yards after the catch. Instead, he falls out of bounds. But as I said, drive stalls there early. Can't take advantage of any big play there with Gamble. Set you up in good field position. Not able to take advantage after that. Next drive, 3rd drive of the game for Florida, 19-yard run from Pierce that leads to a missed field goal at the end of the first quarter. So there was chances there for Florida, 3rd and 3 a couple times early in the game. had the big play to Gamble, had a Pierce Pierce run for 19 yards, all in the first quarter. Could not take advantage. Then the game pretty much decided late in the second quarter. We moved to the second quarter. Story of the game here. Like I said, won't go through it all, but this is the story of the game. What is the story of the game? I mean, that's what we try and do here every week on this game review, and here it is. Georgia got their first score of the game after the Florida missed field goal. It made one of their own. So defense hanging tough, forcing the Georgia offense to settle for a field goal after getting down to the Florida 7-yard line. As I said, this defense stood tough, every chance in the world early. Georgia had first and goal, 7-yard line. Florida defense forces a field goal. Next drive for Florida, setting up nice. Richardson converts a 4th and 2 along the way. Florida had a 1st and 10 at the Georgia 31-yard line. 1st and 10, Georgia 31. You're driving. Florida's driving, calls their shot. You could tell Richardson was looking deep, but right side of the offensive line, gets confused, gets beat by the Georgia defensive front. Richardson sacked for a loss of 11. There you go. Perfect example of my worry all week. Florida was looking for the explosive play right there. Didn't happen. Didn't have the time. It was going to be up to the offensive line to protect. It wasn't even a blitz for Georgia. Georgia still gets the sack. Rush 4, get a sack. And then, once again, a penalty in a crucial situation for this offensive line. 3rd and 26 from the Georgia 47. That's what, a penalty had you there after the sack. Then there's a penalty. You end up at 3rd and 26 from the Georgia 47. Goes for a Naquan Wright 13-yard run. Florida goes for it on 4th and 13. This was a little bit of a play that divided Gator Nation in this one, in going for 4th and 13. Look, I said it last week. I wanted Mullen to be aggressive in this game with nothing to lose, but it had to make sense. This one didn't to me. Or I won't say it didn't make sense. Let me rephrase that. I wouldn't have done it. And look, I know Florida had already missed a field goal. I'm sure that played a huge part in the Dan Mullen's thought process here of going for it on 4th and 13, but you're not converting 4th and 13 versus this Georgia defense. I mean, you may miss another field goal too. I don't know. But I know you're not converting 4th and 13. So as I said, yeah, aggressive, but the aggressiveness had to make sense. It did not to me there, or I wouldn't have done it. And I keep saying, it didn't make sense. It made sense if you wanted to be aggressive and just had no belief whatsoever in the field goal kicker. So I can see it from that. I can see it from that way. I wouldn't have done it. I would have settled for the field goal. It was a long field goal. I know. And look, there's probably not a right or wrong answer. This one is kind of hindsight, but also just looking at it with how good this defense is for Georgia. What are your chances of converting 4th and 13? Not high. So what happens? What does Georgia do? Hits an explosive 32-yard pass and then goes for another. Georgia being aggressive, Rashad Torrance comes up with the interception at the goal line. And little things add up here. His momentum carries him into the end zone. He could have kneeled for a touchback, but Mullen said after the game that Torrance, wasn't really sure in that split-second decision, so he came out. Florida takes over their own goal line. 3:11 left in the first half, and here we go. Off the tracks. Wheels fall off for Richardson in the Florida offense. 2nd and 10. Richardson rushes for 8 yards. Held up by a host of Bulldogs players. Ball gets ripped out for a fumble recovered by Georgia. Georgia picks it up. Their ball. Very next play. Georgia taking over at the 11-yard line. 11-yard touchdown run for James Cook. Sets up the first touchdown of the game. Georgia 10-0 right there. So Gators get the ball back. Down 10-0. 2:16 left. Face a 2nd and 15 after a penalty and no gain. Penalty's hurting. Florida needs a score here, of course. If you want to get the ball after halftime too. Try to get that 2-for-1 scenario. Could have given you the lead if you could have done that back-to-back. But Richardson on 2nd and 15 doesn't see the Georgia defensive lineman, Trevon Walker, as he drops back into coverage. Georgia blitzing on the other side of the formation. Richardson thinks he has Henderson open where that blitz was coming from. Richardson never saw Walker drop back. Ball's tipped. Interception, Georgia. Look, they baited him right there. they had the young quarterback right where they wanted him. Baited him into that read. It paid off for Georgia. Another turnover for Florida. Another turnover for a Florida quarterback. Theme of the season here. Very next play, Georgia with their explosive 36-yard touchdown pass from Bennett to Karis Jackson. Georgia up 17-0 just like that. Now a minute 35 left in the first half. Okay, well, let's just get out. Let's run the clock out. But Georgia wasn't done. And I'm not sitting here, you thought Florida could have just maybe done that. Now, as I said, Mullen being aggressive here. No problem with being aggressive right here. You definitely hindsight will say, okay, you can just run the clock out. A minute 35, go for it. Go. Georgia wasn't done, though. Defense forcing another turnover, another Richardson interception. There's been 4 pick six. And this was the dagger. This was the game. Of course, the other ones were the game, really, mostly for the most part. But this one pretty much put it out of reach. Florida driving near midfield. And Florida's driving here, as I said. They're near midfield right here. 2nd and 11. Richardson just throws late, outside, long throw. Jacoby Dean, plenty of time to react. Easy pick six. Extending the lead, 24-0 for Georgia. And there's your halftime score, and there's your game. Of course, Florida only scores 7, so your game would have been 10-7. Georgia didn't have to score again once they scored 10 points. But, last 3 minutes of the game for Florida, complete meltdown for Florida. Yeah, you'd love to see the defense respond with a big stop in a tough situation, but too much to ask right there. Yeah, not putting there at this feet. Would you like to see, not have that explosive long pass play for a touchdown or make the play on James Cook and the defense make a stand again? Of course you would, but time and time again, Georgia put in that position on offense, they're going to take advantage. So, you love to see the defense respond, of course. Too much to ask for me. The path was there early on. Defense did its part. And looked like it was going to be a close, hard-fought game going into halftime. Kind of not the way it played out, but kind of what I expected. Georgia, the way they played versus Auburn, kind of a close game at halftime versus Kentucky, a close game after halftime. I thought this would follow the same formula. Second half, Georgia just kind of take over with their run game. So, okay, well, Florida's in it. And then the late collapse happens. So, defense did its part. Looked like it was going to be a close game going into halftime. Georgia got the best of a young quarterback. And the defense went in that bad field position. Momentum started coming into play for Georgia as well. So we know it's going to, with the theme of the quarterback and what we've kind of discussed all year, we knew there were going to be growing pains here with Anthony Richardson. I think most of us knew that. I think we knew what we probably would get from Emory Jones in this game. And many, as I keep going back to it, I don't think we expected Anthony Richardson to win this game for Florida, but it was time to see what he could do. I know many will point to the move, making the move versus this defense, versus this Georgia defense, and Anthony Richardson making his first start versus Georgia. But Mullen didn't make this move to appease the fan base. He saw something for a better chance with Richardson, basically basing it off the way they ended the LSU game. But with that being said, quarterback split the reps leading up to the game. And maybe completely handing over the reins for, somewhat of a better performance could have happened. I'm not saying it makes the difference. I'm not saying if Florida wins the game if Anthony Richardson gets 100% of the snaps in these last 2 weeks during this bye week and preparing for Georgia. But after what he did at LSU, and then knowing the possibility is there, we don't know when Mullen made the decision. Did he make the decision right after the LSU game? Did he need to see more in practice? Did he need to see how both guys were handling it? And he admitted, both guys have been splitting the reps these last 2 weeks. So with that, I would hope a better performance if Richardson got 100% of the snaps the last couple of weeks. I don't know if it made a whole lot of a difference. More about earlier in the season and getting those reps. And now, of course, he was injured a little bit, plays into it some. But those first couple games, the Vanderbilt game, Kentucky game, if any of those reps contributed to a better performance. Hard to say they wouldn't, but also maybe stretching the truth a bit there. But this would have been nice to see when you make the change, and it's a full change, that your starting quarterback is getting the majority of the reps, not splitting reps. Now, Dan Mullen's always going to have two quarterbacks taking snaps, but now it's about the percentage of it. Don't know if it makes a difference yesterday, but something I don't even know when Dan Mullen came up with the decision to go with Richardson. So maybe he needed to see 50-50 from both guys in making a decision there. But he says after the game that it was mostly based on the LSU performance and trying to continue that. Here we are, year 4, Dan Mullen, his quarterbacks, no quarterback, ready to take on Georgia in his 4th season now. It wasn't supposed to be this way when Dan Mullen was hired. You're thinking year 4, okay, he's got his guys, offense should be rolling. And at times we've seen it this year, but peaks and valleys. Now, look, many teams don't have a quarterback that'll be ready to play this Georgia defense either. That is the harsh reality. That is the truth of it as well. But this is where you start looking overall, big picture. Take Georgia, for example. Now, Kirby isn't known for his offensive side of the ball skills. He's hired his coordinators to do that for him. But with the way they recruit, you expect them to have quarterbacks ready as well. And they didn't last season. But that only meant losses to two of the best offenses in college football last year in Alabama and Florida. That's all that meant. So he didn't have great quarterback playing in his 5th season as a head coach, but that was the limit of it. They didn't struggle much outside those games versus Florida and Alabama. Mullen's in year 4, supposed to have his offense going by year 4, his offense, his quarterbacks. But here we are sitting with the 4th loss of the season. Inconsistent quarterback play with his recruited quarterbacks. Not enough to make up for the overall recruiting effort and all the inconsistency that comes with that. And now the inconsistency is team-wide. We thought Mullen would be able to make up that difference if you're not going to recruit at that level. And look, Kirby Smart said it after the game. Recruiting is half the battle. And high-level recruiting is half the battle. And we thought Mullen would be able to make up that difference with quarterback play under him, but that's not what we're seeing. That was supposed to be the difference under Dan Mullen. Yeah, we even knew coming in 2018 that the recruiting was not going to be an Alabama and Georgia level. We knew it, but the quarterback play was supposed to be. We're not getting that in year 4, especially when he got his guys in. So, it doesn't really matter if it's Jones or Richardson at this moment. Neither one are ready for competing for an SEC East crown. We already know that. Far away from that. Now, it's kind of just a little bit. It's peaks and valleys. It's not just the quarterbacks, but I don't think we ever pointed to the consistency when Dan Mullen was hired that we'd be in year 4 saying, okay, well, here's a good week from the quarterback, but here's a Mississippi State type of performance for under Dan Mullen. Just not going to get it week in and week out. Year 4, I didn't expect it. Maybe some of you did. Maybe the change year in and year out, eventually it's going to happen, but not sure I saw it. Something I thought we'd be able to count on is not there, and that's the consistency of quarterback play in year 4. So right there, not much more to look into the rest of the game. That late second half barrage there from Georgia, that turnover fest was the difference in the game. Richardson did get hit pretty hard in the 3rd quarter of the game, came out with a head and neck injury. Emory takes over for the rest of the game, helps Florida avoid getting shut out, extending the nation's longest extending the nation's longest streak of not being shut out. Yay. Okay. That doesn't really mean much to me. Georgia tacked on a field goal, another late 42-yard run from Zamir White to put up 34 points, 34-7, Georgia. Look, Georgia didn't need to do anything in the second half of this game. Attempted 16 runs, only 5 passes. They had the game wrapped up by that late first half turnover fest here. So looking at one more, I'm not going to leave it out. This is a game review. Like I said, defense, I'll point overall played pretty good versus Georgia. shout out to Rashad Torrance. I know we gave up the big touchdown play as well, but an overall good performance. He was everywhere. Came the first Gator to record 2 interceptions in one game since Donovan Steiner did the same thing versus Vanderbilt in 2019. But those interceptions were Torrance's first 2 of his career. Also had a fumble recovery in the game. So with the 2 pickoffs of Stetson Bennett in the second and fourth quarter and the recovered fumble that was forced by Jeremiah Moon, Rashad Torrance all over the field in getting turnovers for this Gator defense. Now, unfortunately, Florida not able to do anything with the turnovers once again. Finally getting, there we go, that 3 turnover game. And just because of where they happened on the field and, of course, everything else comes into play, but not able once again to take, turnovers have lacking. But when Florida did get them this year, not able to do anything with them, and that continued here, even getting more, still didn't turn them into points at a clip you needed to win this game. So there we go. Shout out to Torrance. Shout out to, as I said, the defense too. If I'm going to slam them when they play bad, I thought in this game, and look, is the Georgia offense this elite offense? No, not in the traditional sense that we know offenses to be, even recently. I mean, they don't have that passing attack yet. The run game is really good. But for the most part, Florida definitely coming off that LSU game, stepped up in that department in the rush defense. Of course, everybody come into this game after watching Florida LSU and was like, okay, well, Georgia's going to run for 300 too. Well, they almost got 200. As I said, that big run, that 42-yard run late for Zamir White. I mean, I'm not going to say take that away. I mean, it was part of the game, but Florida had the game was way well out of hand. Georgia sitting there making plays late and tacking another touchdown on. And so, it's part of the game. Yeah, you gave it up. But besides that, sometimes I hate looking at stats that way. But besides that, when in the meat of the game, especially in the first quarter, most of the second quarter, Florida's defense didn't let the game get out of hand. And that's what we've seen in this game the last few years. So what did Dan Mullen have to say after the game? Because I wanted to share this one today. The soundbite from Dan Mullen after the game. After Georgia wins 34-7. Not final score not all that close. One of Georgia's biggest wins over Florida, especially in recent years. But everybody has questioned Dan Mullen. Never mind. I won't say everybody. A lot of people have questioned Dan Mullen's passion this season, his approach this season. And he brought it up. He brought it up after the game. He was asked about it, of course. First, some of this is his overall opening statement, and then was asked about the trajectory of the program and how Gator Nation should feel about it. So let's hear right now from Dan Mullen, and we'll come back on the other side of it.
Looking at us right now, we're not where we want to be. Obviously, I'm certainly not where we want to be through at this point of the season. Our players certainly are not where we want to be at this point of the season. And it's a mindset right now that we gotta go change, and we gotta fix. And football's a great team sport, the ultimate team sport. And as the head coach, the mindset of the team falls on me. And where we're at, the attitude, the approach, and everything we take falls on me. And obviously, I know 2/3 of the way through the season right now. I'm certainly not pleased with where we are. I know our players are certainly not pleased with where we are. I know the Gator Nation, is not pleased with where we are with the standards and the expectations within this program. But in this final third of the season, that's on me to get this fixed. And the approach that I take and the mindset that we play with, that's on me to get it fixed. And and I certainly plan on doing that, of changing this where we're at right now with us, and creating some positive energy for us, and some confidence for us, and the expectations to feed off of each other. And I'm going to work, and I'm going to make sure I get that right. Fans can be positive, they can be negative on how you want. with things. But a negative attitude or dropping the rope certainly doesn't fix anything. Grasping the rope does, and holding on tight does, and squeezing as it's burning does. And I will say something about me. I don't drop the rope. I'm not going to let you even rip it out of my hands. You could drag me around by my face if you want, but I am going to let it squeeze it and let it go. I'm not going to let any inch of that rope go, and I know our players won't either. Okay? But I'm going to tell you that's what we have to do. And for the Gator Nation, okay, we got 1/3 of the season left. And obviously I'll tell every fan, listen, this is not where I want to be right now. And I'm sure at 4-4 that's nobody where they want to be. But we still got 1/3 of this season left, and we'll see. We'll see what we define ourselves by at the end of this season.
There you go. Dan Mullen after the game. And look, I know a lot of the fan base wanted to see that type of reaction, that type of approach from Dan Mullen in that setting many weeks ago. But, got it put on you by Georgia, and I won't say the realization come then, probably has always been there, but the expression of that finally come out, I think, with Dan Mullen after Georgia. So, he's not happy. He knows Gator Nation's not happy at the same time. So, sitting at 4-4, that's probably the reaction at me. Like, there's no way Dan Mullen saw this coming. I don't think he did. So, I think he's taken aback by it as well. But look, I just wanted to play that because I know a lot of people have talked about Dan Mullen's approach to press conferences and his chance to talk to the fan base a bit. And how they have not liked his approach or maybe even what he said, but I don't think you can argue with what he said after this one. He definitely knows it's not where it should be, especially Florida right now, where they're at this point of the season. Yeah, there's 1/3 of the season left to play. I'm not sure how much solace will be taken into that. Now, Richardson goes out there and starts every game and shows a lot of promise, building for 2022. Then, okay, maybe so. But, we'll see. This team's got to respond for one thing. Coaches have their work cut out for them, I think, mentally for this team, mentally for themselves, and getting this team ready to go play. Because, besides Florida State and the natural rivalry of that, you only really have to look at just getting better and playing. And I hate to say it right here, heading into the last month of the season, but just playing for pride. And hopefully that's what this team can do. Hopefully that's what this coaching staff can get from these players. But they're going to have their work cut out for them. But I think, if we're going to hit Mullen on a lot of what he doesn't say and what the fan base wants him to say, but he doesn't say, and he kind of finally does come out and say it after Georgia did. All right, well, let's give him that. And he knows. He knows this isn't acceptable from Gator Nation. See where he goes to finish out the rest of the season. Here we are. Florida sits at 4-4. All of the questions, all of the feeling around Gator Nation that they have, and then that they have after this game, it isn't new. These questions have been around for weeks now. But the performance versus Georgia, it puts a stamp on them. And with a month left in the season, these questions, these feelings are big picture. It mostly isn't about 2021 anymore. And we saw it. Kirby Smart said it. It starts with recruiting. Kirby Smart let that be known after the game. No coach is going to consistently coach his way around the talent. It's about getting the best players, developing those same players for top-level consistency, and Florida's not there right now. And look, only a few teams can claim that. Florida's nowhere near that. But we knew that coming into this game versus Georgia. No surprise there. We just saw it up close and personal, and that thought further cemented itself. So questions of approach, questions of recruiting, it's not a timely fix. Definitely not a timely fix. Even if the changes happen, those aren't happening until after the season. Nothing for those big picture questions. We're not going to get those answers right away. But what is the timeline? It's not an instant fix, but what is the timeline? And I think that's where a lot of the worry comes in. Will there be patience? We're not getting these answers in the last month of the season. Steps can be made to see the changes that are being hopefully tried at the end of the season, but the results from those decisions will take a while. I know Georgia game notwithstanding, I know we want to change the defensive coordinator. That's going to happen. But these steps that we're talking about, changing your approach to recruiting, changing your approach to program management, getting the right guys in here, getting the right staff in here, whether it be on-field coaches, whether it be the recruiting staff. Those steps have to be taken, but it's not going to be an instant fix. So what's the timeline? Can it be an instant fix in some way? Yeah. But the overall program approach, if you make those changes, you're not going to see the end result of that in one season. You might get some instant results from it, but all right, Dan Mullen's going to change his recruiting approach. Well, first of all, he's got to do it. First of all, he's got to do everything that surrounds all the decisions that surround that. He has to do it. But if recruiting is going to get better, you're not going to see that till 2-3 seasons from now, when whoever you get in this class and the next class, whenever you make coaching changes and all that, you're not going to know. Now, recruiting rankings will tell us some of the story, but what's the timeline of those guys making an impact? So there's a 2022 can be a different. Like I said, we're looking big picture right here now. And if we talk about the only way to make up the difference right now is a transcendent quarterback. Okay, well, you make that move, 2022, you probably have a defensive coordinator. What will be enough? But even that, I talked to Bill Sykes, former colleague of mine here on Gators Breakdown, and me, Will, and him have this group text, and that's his worry too. 2022 can be good. It really can be with Anthony Richardson if he takes the steps that whatever we have seen so far this year that can be gleaned from that, and hopefully he takes those steps. Okay, so 2022 can be really good, but now with the lack of recruiting the last few years and the cycles and the whole approach with it, what does that mean for now? We're looking, like I said, big picture, way down the road. What is the timeline for all these changes that need to be made? 2022 can still be good if you got the transcendent quarterback and your defense turns around. That's just the basic of it right now. Is there more to it? Absolutely. But that's just the basic of it right now. But what about after that? And that's where all this recruiting talk and the program approach really comes into play, and the timeline of it all. Yeah, you got to make the changes. When do we see the ultimate payoff? Is there patience? Do we get to see it with Dan Mullen? Is it somebody else? At least for right now, it has to be Dan Mullen making these changes, changing his approach, the administration as well, paired with Dan Mullen. And if that's not it, eventually we'll know, and Florida will go on to somebody else. We'll be asking those same questions. Can the new guy do everything that we question right now? And what is the timeline of all those changes? So right now, it's just Dan Mullen, current admin, current staff. If he doesn't get it done, those same questions go on to the next. But that's where we are right now. 4-4. I know a lot of people are not even looking forward to the rest of the games. Try to. I mean, it won't be because I'm doing a podcast that I'm looking forward to seeing Florida play South Carolina and Samford and Missouri and Florida State. Gator fan, I want to see Florida win every game they play. Go out there and win the ball game. I'll be in Columbia next week. But I understand it. I understand it's frustrating right now. Fan base is hurting. I know. So we'll see. We want a lot of big picture answers right now. We're just not going to get them. That's just where we're at right now. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes. All right, everybody. 50 minutes right here of dagger to the heart. I know. It's never fun losing to Georgia. Look, I had a fun time tailgating. Florida, Georgia means a lot to me. If you're new to Gators Breakdown, a lot of you don't know, I grew up in Georgia. So I'm sitting with a close friend of mine and his wife who have been friends of mine for years, sat with them. Gators Breakdown Plus member Levi Deese sat with us as well. So a group of 4 of us right there, and but still tailgating with the Harmonic Woods group. Big old Gator bus among RVs, and a lot of you saw the pictures we put on social media and stuff. It's still an event, still football, still love it, and the camaraderie that comes with it. So it all comes down to what happens on the field, of course, and talked to a lot of those same people after the game as well. And look, I know we all hurting, but that day, the day of itself, living in Jacksonville now, being from Jacksonville, before I moved to Georgia, so a lot of connection to this game means a lot to me. But still feels so much better when we come out of there with a victory. But a good time. It was a good time. Everybody who stopped said hello, whether it would be walking to the stadium, in the stadium. Thanks for saying hello. And I'll always enjoy that. Always saying right there, as soon as I even parked, yesterday morning, it was a lot of fun. So, all right, everybody, that would do it here for this episode. I know it's I know it's tough to listen to. I know it is, especially if you're a Gator fan out there. I know Georgia fans are coming in here on the YouTube chat and trying to, make it even worse. But what we got to deal with right now. So, all right, I'm the host of Gators Breakdown, David Waters. You can find me on Twitter at GatorDave_SEC. Guys and girls out there, thanks for listening to this episode of Gators Breakdown.